Hi, my name is Callie Hocuff, and this is my critical assignment psychological factors presentation. So my target population and rationale for choosing that population is novice weightlifters and people in the general population who want to start lifting for their health or for their mental state or for whatever the reason is they want to get into it and make it a lifestyle change and make it a part of their life. I would probably be working with individuals who need a lot of guidance on form and on programming because a lot of the people that are just starting or just getting back into it after taking a long amount of time off lack some confidence and they need help with someone to guide them through what they need to do and how to be safe and all of those different things. A study by Hager in 2014 found that if people don't have like a set plan or don't know what they're really doing, the idea of going into a gym and working out on their own can be really daunting. So I would like to be able to provide these people with the guidance and support that they need to be able to be successful in the gym and also find success and increase their self-efficacy and all of that. I also would like to be able to encourage people who typically wouldn't be able to stick with a program or be able to make that lifestyle change. A study by Latchman in 2014 found that most people, middle-aged people, do not exercise enough, and that causes a lot of health problems as people age. And so if I can play a role in being able to help encourage them and teach them how to create an actual behavioral change, that's my goal as well. So just providing motivation and guidance to people who want to get into it, create a lifestyle change, get healthier, and also feel better mentally and physically. Those are the people that I'm mostly going to be working with in my career. Some sources that I found to be really helpful when studying this kind of group and how different barriers can prevent them from changing their lifestyle habits. The first study is the role of self-efficacy in achieving health behavior change by Stretcher in 1986. This looked at how self-efficacy plays a role in behavior change, and they found that it is very important if you want to help a client create behavior change that you help them increase their self-efficacy and increase their self-confidence and their belief that they're able to do it on their own. And if you're not able to do that, it's a lot harder for them to stick to a specific program. This study also found that there's 4 major sources of self-efficacy: personal experience, vicarious experiences, verbal persuasion, and their psychological state. As a trainer of a client, I can help with some of those. I can help with personal experience. I can help get them into the gym and help them see, hey, this is fun or this isn't too bad. So I could help with the personal experience part. Vicarious experiences, I could possibly, by showing them how I lift, what I do, if I'm working with other women, encouraging them, hey, lifting's not just for men, that sort of stuff. Verbal persuasion, I can play a big role in. I can help encourage them and motivate them verbally as much as I can throughout our training sessions. And then their psychological state also plays a big role in it, which I would hope that I can help, but I'm not a professional in that area, so that might be something I would have to refer out if need be, but I would hope that combining the other 3 would help improve their psychological state a little bit. The next study is exercise, physical activity, and self-determination theory, and this is a systematic review that looked at different studies by Teixeira in 2012. They looked at exercise motivation through the lens of the self-determination theory, and they found that autonomous types of motivation are much more likely to lead to the desired exercise behavior, whether it's increasing the amount of times a week they go to the gym or being consistent with going to the gym. Whatever their goal is, if it's something that they want to do for themselves, they found that it's a lot more beneficial for them. It also found intrinsic motivation provides people with feelings of enjoyment, excitement, and satisfaction, which means if they have intrinsic motivation to go work out, they'll find a lot more joy in it and they'll want to keep going back. Whereas if it's something that they're just being forced to do, whether it's by me as a trainer or by their spouse or by whoever it is, they're not going to enjoy it and it's not going to be something they're going to want to stick to long term. So helping them find that intrinsic motivation can play a big part in being able to into solidifying a behavior change for a client. The third study is predictors of perceived barriers to physical activity in the general adult population. And this is a cross-sectional study by Harazo Beltran in 2017. They observed over 1,000 men and women to try to determine how they perceive barriers to exercise. This study found that socioeconomic factors played the biggest role in how people determine or how people perceive barriers to exercise. And they found that low socioeconomic status was related to a much higher risk of perceiving barriers to exercise. The reason this is important, especially for my population that I will most likely be working with, is because it can help me understand that I need to take the time to learn where people come from, what's their background, because it's shown that their background plays a role in how they perceive different barriers, and they might need a little more help and more motivation in certain areas because of where they come from. And this knowledge should help me be able to develop a strategy that's right for them to help them to be able to deal with their perceived barriers. So the impact of the environment. The impact of the environment around everyone plays a role in choices that people make. The physical environment specifically can play a huge role on exercise and physical activity for an individual. If they live in an area that's unsafe, have no gyms, don't have the community group fitness centers or classes, don't have good parks, that can all lead to reduced physical activity by the people in the community because they don't have the physical opportunities and the proper environment needed to promote physical activity. Whereas in contrast, if it's a safe neighborhood with lots of bike paths and community fitness centers with exercise classes and nice parks, all of those factors would lead to increased physical activity for those in that community because it's all provided and available for them. So physical environment plays a big role in it. Social environment also plays a big role in whether someone is going to start exercising or continue exercising. A study by Smith in 2017 found that social support is the #1 factor that determines if an individual will exercise regularly or not. So this can be support from friends, colleagues, family, etc. So just having people in their community and around them supporting them plays a huge role. And the opposite is also true. If everyone around them doesn't think exercise is important or thinks they're wasting their time, that's going to also affect if they're going to stick to a program, if they're going to start exercising, all of those different things. So family culture also kind of plays into a little bit of the social environment. But it's even more important because the family is the base it's oftentimes the base of people's behaviors and ideas. So if you have a family that makes physical activity a priority, they're more likely to raise children who grow into adults who make exercise a priority. So it's really important for families to help encourage their kids to exercise and play sports and games outside and all that sort of stuff, because it means that as those kids grow up, they're going to be a lot more likely to continue on with exercise. So then, just like families who promote it, families who don't engage in physical activity or think it's not important or a waste of time, that can affect a child and how they view exercise as they get older. So if a child grew up in a family whose parents hated exercising and they thought it was boring or they thought it was so unfun or terrible, then they're going to grow up and they're going to have a negative view of exercise, a negative view of working out. It's going to make it a lot harder for them to have to create a full behavior change and a mindset change to be able to get into the mindset of wanting to work out and exercise regularly. So barriers to psychological growth. Looking at this in terms of exercise, a lack of fitness knowledge can cause people to kind of shut down and not want to start. And if you never start, you're never going to be able to grow. So a lot of times if people don't know what to do in the gym, they'll go in there, they'll kind of walk around, use some machines, but then after a couple of weeks be like, I didn't get any results. And so that makes it so that they don't want to go back. Some people know that they don't have a lot of knowledge, and so they don't even begin to go to the gym. They don't even start the process of trying to learn or make it a habit. Physical limitations can also prevent psychological growth. If someone is obese or overweight, that can play a big role. If someone has different handicaps or disabilities, that can also play a role, because starting in the gym can be scary, and so sometimes those people definitely need help of a trainer or a professional who can really help them be safe while still being active. Unrealistic goals that individuals hold for themselves can be a huge barrier, especially to psychological growth, because they set themselves up for failure by setting the bar so high that they can't ever reach it, and then when they don't reach it, they get really down on themselves, and this unrealistic goal setting pattern that some people have can cause people to either quit after a short time because they haven't met their goals, or it can cause them to never even start training at all. Negative self-talk also can play a huge role in barriers to psychological growth. If people are constantly telling themselves that they can't do it or they're bad at it, they're going to start believing it, and they're going to start basing their actions on that belief. So negative self-talk can really be detrimental to someone that's trying to get into exercise, get into fitness, and start a new program. So when we look at factors that play a role in exercise and physical activity, one of, if not the most common factor that people say prevents them from exercising would be a lack of time. This means that an individual just doesn't think that they have enough time to incorporate a workout program into their life. Because it's one of the most common, it's important to address and to be able to deal with clients. And it can also be one of the hardest to overcome because it does require a very large mindset change to be able to get through this belief. Oftentimes this barrier is not based in fact. It's used as an excuse, or they have a belief that they have other things that are more important. So they really do think they don't have enough time, when in actuality they could make the time for it. A couple strategies to help combat this would be provide education to the client on how important exercise is and why they should incorporate it into their lifestyle. Help them learn about the mental benefits, the physical benefits, and just encourage them to make it an actual priority. Another strategy would be to sit with them and help them write out a pros and cons list. What are the pros of implementing a consistent exercise routine, and what would be the cons of not? Or what are the cons of doing it, and just seeing if the pros outweigh the cons for them. Another factor is lack of support, which we talked about a little bit earlier. A lack of support causes people to feel like they shouldn't participate in exercise, or there's no reason to, or it's not important, or they're afraid that they're going to be judged for participating, or it can just make it really hard to take that first step of starting, or to continue if they already have started. Social support in a study by Smith in 2017 found that it's the #1 factor that determines if an individual will exercise regularly. So if they don't have support from somewhere, it makes it really hard for them to want to continue. So because of this, not everyone has the social support that they need or would like to have. And so if I have clients that come to me and don't have the support from home or from their friends, it's important for me to help clients find intrinsic motivation, find motivation for themselves to want to do it, even if they don't have the support that they would desire. A study by Teixeira in 2012 once again found that autonomous types of motivation are much more likely to cause long-term adherence to an exercise program. So a couple strategies, other than helping them find intrinsic motivation, would be help guide them, lead them to places that they can find social support. I would be able to provide clients with some social support. I could help introduce them to some like exercise classes, or an online group of people who are just starting working out. Just help give them options of finding a community that will help encourage them throughout their own personal exercise journey. And also, if a client's family is willing, you can provide education to them or info for them to give to their family about how important it is for them to stick to this routine and why they should make it a priority. And that can help, if the family is willing, start building a social support from home, which can make a big difference. Continuing on with factors, anxiety can play a huge role. Anxiety is described as having feelings of worry about something in the future. So a lot of times people with anxiety will look in the future and think of all the worst possible things that can happen. Someone will think about going to the gym, be like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. What happens if I try to lift a weight and I drop it, or I fall, or they think of the worst case scenario. And sometimes this is enough to keep them from going at all. So it's a common struggle, especially for those new to it, because it's a new environment, it's a new activity. And so anxiety can become a really big deal. Some strategies for combating anxiety. If I start working with a client who has anxiety, one of the most important things would be to find an exercise or a training program or a style of exercise that they enjoy and that they're comfortable with. So there's no reason off the bat, if they have anxiety about being in the gym or exercising or lifting weights, there's no reason to throw them in to all of these crazy routines and different things. Find something that they enjoy, find something that they can do and find success in, and build from there. So there's no reason to give them things that are going to just increase their anxiety about working out or about meeting with you. Also, creating a program that allows them to see improvement. So don't create something that is super hard that's going to take forever for them to see progress. Create little goals so that they can hit those goals and see that they are progressing, that they are getting better, that they don't have to be anxious about what's happening, that it's all working. A study by Anderson in 2013 found that improved performance and recognizing that improved performance can help increase self-efficacy, and increased self-efficacy can help reduce anxiety. So it's really important to incorporate a program that they can see the progress for themselves. One final factor that we're going to talk about is perfectionism. There are times when perfectionism can be beneficial. People that are perfectionists can usually push themselves very hard to try to reach a goal. The problem is when they set their goals or their standards too high and it's not possible for them to reach. And these unrealistic goals can cause them to get very down on themselves when they don't reach those goals. So oftentimes, if someone's a perfectionist, they will also procrastinate and they'll put stuff off because if they can't do it perfectly, they don't want to do it at all. And in terms of exercise and training and weightlifting, all of those things are very much learning as you go and just starting little and getting bigger. So it can be daunting for someone who's a perfectionist to be willing to step out and take that risk of not being really good at something. So a couple of strategies to help combat this: provide these people with education on kind of physiology of exercise, how our body and how our muscle tissues and how the nervous system all respond to the exercise stimulus, and how a lot of those processes of building muscle or losing fat take time, and that there's nothing wrong with that. And trying to set a goal of losing 20 pounds in 2 weeks is not realistic, and it's not even healthy, and it's not something our body's made to do. So help teaching them that our body has to do things at its own pace, and that if it takes longer, that's okay. So help teach them that just because progress might be slow, it doesn't mean that they're failing, and it doesn't mean that they should give up. Another strategy would be to help them set realistic goals, sit down with them and be like, all right, this is what is something that's attainable for you in the next 2 weeks, in the next 4 weeks, and you can go out as far as they want, but give them goals that are actually attainable goals that they can meet and then feel proud and confident about themselves. And then the last thing is remind them of their success, because a lot of times people who are perfectionists just look at the negatives or the things that they can't do well and forget about any of the good things that they've done or the successes that they've had. So reminding them, hey, you remember when you hit that max, or remember when you were able to squat with proper form for the first time, whatever it is, help remind them so that they have in their mind, okay, I was successful. Just because I don't feel like it now, I am not always a failure. So that can be beneficial too. So my mission statement for me as a trainer in terms of a Bible verse would have to be 1 Corinthians 6, 19 to 20. And it's, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought at a price. So glorify God in your body. And this is, I love this verse because as a trainer, I can relate to it a lot. It reminds me that I personally am called to take care of my body and to do so for the glory of God. But also kind of the spiritual side of it, that me taking care of the body that God gave me isn't about looks. It's not about the external appearance. It's about actually taking good care, eating right, exercising. So just helping other people be able to understand that you're not necessarily exercising just for how you look. You're exercising for your overall health and for your mental health, and all those things are so much more important than just how you look. So being able to work with other clients and help them to understand that they're precious to God and He created them perfectly. So when we were working out, we're doing that to glorify Him the best way we can, but we're not doing it just to meet some societal standard of beauty. To me, when I read this verse, it also reminds me when it says you were bought with a price, that Jesus came and God sacrificed his son for every single person on earth. And so I should make sure that I'm treating everyone um, in a loving and caring way so that I can help show them the love of Christ. So I should center everything I do around that idea that every human is a child of God and that I need to treat them as such because God is the one who made them. So, and then new knowledge that I will apply moving forward. Definitely from this class, I've learned that the mental is just as important, if not more, than the physical when it comes to exercise and training, and especially training long term and making it a lifestyle change. Um, if someone is super, super depressed, it's going to be really, really hard for them to be able to get up every day and exercise. Or if someone is super, super anxious, it's going to be hard for them to do that. They're not going to want to. They're going to quit whatever program they're doing. So making sure that that mental health is there and that they're aware of these different feelings that they might have is super important, even just as a trainer. And I also, a couple other little things off that. I learned that I definitely need to, in terms of mental state, need to address all clients individually and learn what is their background, what are the barriers that they're facing. All of those things should play a role in how I create a program for them and how we approach training. So taking the time, so as I normally do a physical assessment and see how their biomechanics are and what we need to work on, I need to also take the time to really learn what their mental and physical mental barriers are when looking at exercise. Also, I need to be compassionate, empathetic, and understanding. I personally love working out, so every single day I'm excited to work out, and my rest days I'm sad because I miss it. So I have to be able to put myself in their shoes and understand that not everyone is like that and that people really struggle to find the motivation, to find the excitement, to find the fun in working out. So just taking the time to step back and be like, I need to be very compassionate and empathetic and help them get through this the best I can without them feeling judged. I need to make sure that everyone feels like they can be completely honest in themselves whenever they're with me in a training session. And also just be very aware of making sure that I'm encouraging and motivating enough, that I'm not constantly just queuing on form, that I actually am providing positive feedback and positive reinforcement and encouraging and helping them have fun and all of that sort of stuff, because I definitely can get carried away with the kind of little tiny details of biomechanics and proper form and that stuff, because that's stuff that I love. But I have to remember that people are very emotional and respond to emotion. So if I can provide that positive encouragement and motivation, then it will be able to help my clients a lot more than if I'm just kind of focused on specifically on form and movements and that kind of stuff. And here are all of my references, and thank you for a wonderful class. I definitely learned a lot, and Merry Christmas.